What's going on, everybody? Thank you for checking out this video. Welcome back. Today's topic is directly intended for the baseball players. I feel like these things I pulled specifically from my baseball journey. They really have nothing to do with actually throwing the baseball, but they're all things that I feel like as you go, things that kind of hit my brain as like this is what helps separate you from a good high school player to a college player, a good college player to professional player, and then up through the ranks to professional baseball as well. Not even just things that I feel like I did really well. I don't feel like I had some big illustrious career to reflect back on, and everybody should just listen to it. There are things that I feel like I was at least around people who did some of these things really well, or at least helped instill them in me, and were keys for me that I picked up that like, oh man, that's obvious that all of these other really successful pitchers that I've been around did these things, or baseball players in general. So the topic today is keys to being successful in baseball, and I've got here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that I wanted to run through. The first one, I think this is probably the most impactful one, is an inner belief that what you need to do is already inside of you, and the goal for your training or your practice is to just pull it out of you now. And what I think that does for you is really helps you have this belief that what you need to do to make it to the next level is already inside of you. Like I said, is already something that you can accomplish. It kind of sets your goals on. It's not if, it's when. And then your training is just like a relentless pursuit to pull that out of you, and that inner belief in yourself has to be there before you ever accomplish really anything. I know I love a good quote by Tom Brady that no one's going to believe you until you believe in yourself. Basically, that's not the exact quote, but that's the point of it. And that point to me is very similar to that. That's kind of where that comes from. I feel like you have to believe that you have what it takes to accomplish your goal before you ever accomplish your goal. And I think that's obvious, right? So that inner belief that what you need is already inside of you. Now, point number 2. I think this is something that really helps you deal with adversity in baseball as you go. Even if you're a pitcher, you're going to face times of adversity when you're trying to accomplish anything great in life, and really baseball or not, okay? Your belief has to be that your best days are ahead of you. Because as soon as you think that your best days are behind you, even if you're getting older through your sport, even if you're kind of into a role player position, you have to believe that the best days of your, abilities are still ahead of you. And I think that's something that really helps drive you through those times of adversity, right? Because if you believe that in your heart, in your brain, that those best days are still ahead of you, then you keep kind of going back to my point number 1, that it's just your job to keep pulling that out of you. It's your training's job. It's the job you have on a day-to-day basis then to keep pulling what's the best version of yourself out of you, because your best days are still ahead of you, right? The best times that you have, within this game are still ahead of you. And I think that's a really fundamental point, for continuing to chase greatness within your, day-to-day duties, right? So point number 3 to me is also a really big one. It kind of piggybacks off of 2. Failure is an opportunity to grow, right? I have felt this at times in my life. I've talked with so many people about this. Failure, like I just mentioned in point number 2, is coming no matter what you're doing. If you want to accomplish anything great, okay? Failure is not final. I love that quote. Failure is not final, and you can't let it define you, and it can't really even alter your course of direction, right? Like, don't keep doing the same thing over and over again expecting different results, but you have to be willing to stick with a plan or a process for long enough to see it through, to get an adequate sample size to take in inventory of it. Is this even working, right? But viewing your failure as a part of the process, and it being just such an opportunity to grow. Now, if you're constantly working on your weaknesses, you're obviously going to experience a lot of failure. And that's a big part of what this game truly is trying to build on your strengths and kind of even out your weaknesses, right? Just so you don't have holes in your game. You don't want to have big glaring holes in your swing. You don't want to have really, big glaring holes in like certain pitch types. Can't throw my slider for a strike, because then it makes my good fastball maybe easier to hit. So you have to be trying to plug up those holes, but then you're also just trying to accentuate like your strengths. Like if you're a speed guy, use your speed. Don't be trying to hit for power. You want to get better at driving the baseball, sure, but you want to play up your strengths as best as you can, because those God-given tools is what's going to carry you throughout that. And the easiest way I try to describe it on a day-to-day basis to pitchers that I'm around is that, especially as you get older, do you think at 24, 25 years old you're gonna experiment with a new pitch that just winds up being better than the pitch you've been practicing for the last 10 years of your life? Probably not, probably not. And so that's probably something that, just from a sheer time that you've spent practicing it, but then also like, if those pitches, we talk a lot about, like having biomechanical biases to certain pitch types, if those pitches, if I'm a really good supinator and I'm trying to throw like a pronation pitch, like a changeup, to me, I feel like you're beating a dead horse a little bit. You gotta experiment with it for sure. You gotta compartmentalize your times of when am I trying to develop this? How am I trying to develop this? Maybe not leaning on it too much so it doesn't detract from what my strengths are. But then having kind of a cutoff of just like, look, this is what's best for me. So seeing that failure, as an opportunity to grow, I think is one of the biggest points that help you stay on track, help you stay kind of with your process, and viewing that failure as a piece to that puzzle and not just such a huge roadblock or bump in the road that you have to work around. Okay. So another big point here, point number 4, other people's evaluation of you and your game can't define you, right? Baseball is full of evaluators, recruiters, scouts, and sometimes negative, sometimes positive. Okay, I want to talk about each here. It can't define you either way, right? Because if it defines you in a negative light and you let it define you and you accept that for truth, then your vision or your goal or your dreams can get ripped out from underneath you just right there in an instant. Okay, if you have that inner belief, that what you need is already inside of you, then other people's opinions of you don't really define you, negative or positive, right? So when a scout or a recruit has maybe a more negative or maybe just not as positive as you're seeking, opinion of you or evaluation of you, in the draft, they see you as a 10 to 15 rounder, and you really want to be a 5th rounder or whatever your goal is, D1 versus D2 versus JUCO. As soon as you let them define you, then all of these other points that we've talked about already start to crumble as well, right? But the two biggest sub points, I guess, for me on those is that when that evaluation is negative, figuring out a way to use that to fuel you and having that mentality of like, okay, watch this, if that's what you think, then watch this, right? Because if I've already got that inner belief that I know it takes to be successful there, then your opinion of, my game really doesn't matter. It turns into more of like, okay, that's what you think, then watch this. And that's the kind of, attitude, like when negative it has to be, but then also when positive. I've also been on the other end of that spectrum. Someone labels you as a top prospect or a draft prospect or whatever. You cannot let that get in the way and become a distraction or breed complacency, because at the end of the day, you have to keep in the forefront of your mind that none of that matters, good or bad, and all that matters is about how you go out and execute, right? So if you keep the execution when negative or positive, then your goals and everything kind of stay on track there. Like what you want to accomplish, you keep that kind of in the forefront. You keep this next game, this next pitch, at the forefront of your brain. None of that stuff should even matter, right? But it's obvious things that we hear. We're all human. We all have emotions. We all have goals, dreams, and desires, right? And those are the two ways, in my opinion, when negative and when positive, the best way to handle that. Okay, so the final point, number 5 here, is removing your identity from your performance, and this is extremely hard. I would argue at times practically impossible. When you're a businessman and you make a product, and the product stinks, a lot of people can take that personally when that is, when that product is yourself. Athletes, models, musicians. It's really hard not to let that affect your identity. And I think that's also a big key talking point in like life after sports for a lot of athletes, that when your identity is attached to who you are as an athlete and your performance, that's when you can see a lot of people struggle getting out of an athletic career, or even if it's just through college. So removing your identity from that performance, extremely difficult. But at the end of the day, in your heart, you have to know who you are is bigger than what you do on the field, and that's more important to you. It's more important to your friends and family. Even though when you feel like in the moment, all anybody wants to talk to you about when you're playing quality baseball is baseball. And that's good and fine, and that just shows how much they love and care about what you're doing, right? But those conversations just turn into what you're doing after baseball as well, because those people that love you and are in your corner like that, they just care about what you're into, right? But a lot of times it can seem like they just care about baseball, and that's just not true, So removing your identity from your performance, I think, is one big way that'll allow you to kind of do point number 3 better, and handles other people's potentially negative evaluations of you be better, because it's not who you are, it's what you do. And I think that's the biggest takeaway from it. So I appreciate you guys. Thanks again for checking out this video. Drop me a comment down in the comments below if you got any thoughts or things to add to that. Would love to hear more about what you guys think. Give me a like, comment, subscribe. If you got any more topics you'd like me to address, love to talk about it in the future. Merry Christmas, and we'll see you guys again.